Hello, it is my great honor and privilege to serve as the Conference A leader of the Mississippi Annual Conference. My name is Latoya Thompson, and I'm going to give the Laity Address for the 2021 Mississippi Annual Conference. I'm going to talk about the theme scripture for our annual conference this year, which is John 21. And in that scripture, Jesus appeared to the disciples after his resurrection and asked Peter 3 times if Peter loved Jesus, and emphasized after each question that Peter should continue Jesus' work of making disciples. Peter asked Jesus, "Well, what about John, the disciple you love? What's going to happen to him?" And in John 21, verse 22, Jesus says, "What's it to you? You follow me." I love that line. Jesus was saying, stay focused, man. Jesus was trying to teach the disciples that no matter what happened after his death, they must continue to follow him. They must continue to fulfill their mission, which was the Great Commission. Jesus was trying to ingrain in Peter, who would be a leader among the disciples and integral in the building of the early church, that regardless of what went on around him, a global health pandemic, an impending major change in his church structure, or just a decision at his local church that he really didn't like, the mission had to go on. He had to continue to follow Jesus and continue Jesus' work of making disciples. I am so proud of the laity in the Mississippi Annual Conference who have done just that, continue the mission despite unprecedented challenges. I know of a very small congregation in the East Jackson district, worshiping 50 or fewer on a Sunday, who has already paid their 2021 district and conference apportionment for the year. They are continuing to fulfill the mission by resourcing the making of disciples at a local church, district, conference, and global level. Disaster response volunteers, who are quite simply heroes, continued to work throughout the pandemic. When we had storms, they continued to go out and help disaster victims and help restore people's lives. And churches nearby brought them lunch and snacks. If you want to feel really inspired and proud, I encourage you to go look at the Mississippi Conference Disaster Response Facebook page. Those workers have continued the mission of loving and serving others even through a global health pandemic. I've talked to several people, including some in our Board of Laity, who have stepped up and saved the day to ensure that worship and Christian education, like Sunday school, Bible study, and vacation Bible school, have continued, and that congregational nurturing has continued through the pandemic. I've talked to a few lay people who confess that they quite enjoy the convenience of experiencing their church in the bed or sitting on the couch on Sunday mornings. Well, some layperson, perhaps a volunteer who perhaps had never produced a virtual service before the pandemic and who perhaps didn't even know how to produce a virtual service, but had to learn, had to prep for that service during the week, and get up extra early on Sunday morning to make sure all the equipment was working and the service was streaming, which is not always an easy feat with our rural Mississippi internet. All of these people understood that regardless of how unsettled they felt during the pandemic and during this waiting period to see what happens to us as a church at General Conference, the mission, Jesus' mission, the church's mission, must continue. And so I applaud all of the laity who stepped up and continued the mission of making disciples this past conference year. I encourage all local churches to take a moment at some point and celebrate the folks who perhaps always have, but who especially through the pandemic have kept the church going. Thank your trustees who kept the church facility up so that necessary activities could continue. Thank your finance teams who continue to raise money, and I've heard in a number of churches who exceeded their pre-pandemic year income and increased their generosity to others. Thank your nominations teams who continue to populate and support your church leadership. Thank your SPRC who continue to support your pastor and staff who had their own unusual set of challenges to overcome. Thank you, Church Council, who kept the whole ship moving and mission-minded during this time. Pastors, I didn't forget you. A huge thank you to our pastors, starting with our own bishop, who has proceeded to cast a clear vision to our conference leadership and to our conference. We have 2 foci right now: intentional disciple-making systems and ending racism for good. And we are putting systems in place to ensure that our foci is truly our foci in everything we do as an annual conference. Thank you to all our clergy who have helped us laity to stay focused on making disciples and things that are important to our United Methodist Church core values, such as love and justice. I have seen increased clergy-lay collaboration in churches during this time. Thank you, pastors, for that as well. The Book of Discipline says it's my job to advocate for inclusion of laity in the planning and decision-making of the church, from the local church to the district to the conference level. So I must put in a plug for continued and increased clergy-lay collaboration. Collaboration is not only helpful when we need extra bodies and minds to function well through a pandemic. Clergy-lay collaboration is always helpful in finding ways to effectively make disciples. Finally, I want to say a big thank you to the entire Board of Laity, our Conference UMW President, Dale Barnes, our Youth Rep, Shelby Briggs, our Director of Lay Servant Ministries, Cornelius Mosey, Brookhaven District Lay Leader, Ora Franklin, East Jackson District Lay Leaders, Darlene Dothrow and Roger Watson, Greenwood District Lay Leader, John McClay, Hattiesburg, Corey Proctor, Meridian, Mary Simpson, New Albany District Lay Leader, Buddy Wiltshire, Seashores, Vera Thomas, Senatovia's Christian Bernard, Starkville's Hal Smith, Tupelo District Lay Leader, Tom Wicker, and West Jackson District Lay Leaders, Denise DeRosset and Oliver Ellis. Thank you so much to the Board of Laity for their hard work and passion concerning the work of fostering the role of laity in the congregation and the world. In both of those places, the Book of Discipline says it's our job as laity to fulfill the Great Commission, and it is primarily our witness of the laity that the world will come to know Christ and the mission of the church will be fulfilled. Pretty big responsibility, isn't it? We can handle it. And we have the support of our fabulous clergy. So let's do our part to ensure the mission continues. And the Board of Laity, if we can do anything to help you, our information is in the conference journal. Reach out to us and let us know. Thank you.